This presentation is about applying UDL to a shared research project. As I go through this, please remember that you can adapt this to apply to any shared research project that you would like to try with your students. So, what is UDL? Why is it important? Why are we talking about it? Universal Design for Learning focuses on accessibility for all. So everyone can participate regardless of any learning disabilities or barriers, and regardless of different learning styles and preferences. This is something that is important to consider not only for this unit, but for any unit that you develop, or even when thinking about creating norms and routines for your classroom community. The standard that we're talking about for this unit is the participation in shared research and writing projects. The two components of UDL that I chose to focus in on that support this learning is providing multiple means for engagement, representation, and action or expression, and the community of collaboration. This first point is important in supporting the standard because providing choices makes it more student-centered and allows students to be more engaged and motivated in the online environment. It also makes sure that they can work within their independent needs and styles, so students can choose how they research and how they represent their learning after they have done all that research. The second component, community of collaboration, supports mastery because collaboration is a key component of shared research. So it's kind of directly tied into that, as students will focus on building collaborative habits and knowing how to be effective collaborators. This is also relevant to the 21st century learning as it reflects the real world. So, throughout the unit, there will be formative assessments, and it'll end in a summative assessment. Again, these need to support the mastery of that goal, participation in shared research and writing projects. Looking at the formative assessment, the one I want to think about is the note-taking sheet. As students have an opportunity to review resources independently, at the end, they will also come together with their partner or with their group members and share what they have learned. As students are doing that, they can make connections and add more to their note-taking sheet. So we'll see evidence that students have been collaborating by seeing that they are adding more, or seeing evidence that two students have worked on it. That's just looking for different handwriting or ensuring that we hear ideas from both students if they're doing it verbally. Maybe they are working in different colors if they're working in a Google Doc or on their LMS, to show that everyone is contributing. And again, that supports the mastery of shared research as they are creating meaning together. The summative assessment is kind of all of these components together. So the note-taking sheets, the collaboration checklist, and all of that coming together as students create an artifact. The big piece that will show mastery in the summative assessment is as students go through their final collaboration checklist and reflection, where they will go through and highlight and reflect upon the collaboration skills that they feel that they employed throughout the unit, and reflecting on a way that collaboration helps support their learning. This will demonstrate mastery because, again, it guides the student focus to the collaborative skills instead of the content understandings about the different insects that they will be researching. So incorporating social learning theory into this unit was a key component because we know that students learn from one another and it adds value to their experience. So I've incorporated social learning theory into this unit in a couple of different ways. First, Bandura's social learning theory of observing and mimicking behavior. This can be seen in day 3. So on day 3, I model how to look at a resource for the second time and add more information to my notes after hearing something new or making a connection to what I had previously learned. I also model how to add on or change my thinking after discussing with a friend. This, again, supports the overall goal because students will be able to learn from one another by observing and mimicking behavior. As students are adding on to their previous ideas, I will stop the work and highlight strong student samples. So again, students will have multiple opportunities to view strong examples of this, as well as practice with mimicking and observing the behavior. Another theory, social learning theory, is the theory of constructivism. This is when students negotiate together to create meaning and shared understandings. This can be seen in day 4, where students research independently and then come together to share what they've learned. This will also serve kind of as a springboard as students come together to discuss what kind of artifact they will create to convey their shared learning. So UDL is at the foundation of all of this learning that we're doing throughout this unit to support affective, behavioral, and cognitive needs. This aligns with this chart that we see on the UDL. So when thinking about my unit and thinking about affective needs, multiple means of engagement, I think about optimizing choice, heightening the salience of goals, fostering collaboration, and developing self-assessment and reflection. When looking at day 2 in my unit, you can see where these things are shown. There's choice in the resources to explore and how students take notes. The goals are stated throughout, and students even create their own goals around collaboration. Students collaborate in their notes and as they share at the end of the day. And then again, we complete a self-assessment at the end around our collaboration goals and if we are taking on those habits. Looking back to consider the cognitive needs, multiple means of representation, offering customizing display of information, alternatives for auditory and visual, clarifying vocabulary, activating background knowledge. Let's take a look back at day 2. So various resources will be available. Students will have the option to look at videos with transcripts and captions. There will be books that they can read or have read aloud, graphs that can be described, or charts. All of that is available so students can work within various representations of the information. We will also review what it means to collaborate, so make sure that students are clear on what that means and how they can do that. We'll also activate background knowledge around research and resources so that students can apply those habits effectively. When looking at the multiple means for action and expression and thinking about behavioral, we want to think about varying the methods for response, using multiple media, building fluencies with graduated levels of support, and guiding appropriate goal setting. So I've already talked about that a little bit, but students will set individual goals and review them regularly around collaboration and how they contribute to the work. There will be sentence starters for students as they write and talk. We will also have familiar graphic organizers for taking notes and checklists to help guide the thinking along the way. So you can see how UDL is embedded throughout the lessons each day and how it is the foundation. So how does media support students? The first thing I created is a collaboration checklist. This is where students can put their individual goal and also assess how they are doing in relation to these smaller goals. And we use this plant metaphor for students. So the seed would be they're kind of still thinking about the goal in their mind. They haven't really practiced it yet. Maybe it's not helping them. Here, maybe they've begun to practice the goal. They still need to refine their skills. And here is when they feel like they are doing it and it is helping support their learning. My interactive media is a video where I go over and guide students through filling out their collaboration checklist. Here is my communication to stakeholders. This is my communication to families. You can see where I talk about how students are supported, how they can support students. And in here, there would be a link to that collaboration checklist, as well as the insect collection on Epic, so that they are directly connected to that. When communicating to experts, it's important to make connections to what I'm doing and what the expert does, so that they know why I am reaching out to them for support in the unit. And for colleagues, it's important to give a summary of what is focused on in the unit and what background knowledge students will need to know to be successful. My two biggest reflections and takeaways from participating this is beginning with the end in mind. That will help keep you on track throughout. Having that standard and coming back to it repeatedly helped keep me focused as I built the unit. And the second thing was to keep it simple, because everything gets really complicated very quickly. And so keeping it simple with focusing on just the one standard and having ways that directly support that, instead of kind of trying to build in many different things that can overcomplicate the work.